Cabinet met yesterday, and I just thought I'll take this time with my ministers. Standing with me is Minister for Petroleum and Energy. Yesterday we went through Cabinet and we invoked the provisions of the Essential Services Act, and that gives us the coverage to make certain directions and recommendations to those in the fuel sector and the banking sector to ensure that we do not jeopardize our nation in as far as fuel supply is concerned. It is a concern that has emerged of lately, possibly by way of reminder, through a 1999 agreement. The forerunner of what is now Puma had more like a monopoly in terms of fuel wholesale importation, as well as redistribution to clients in our country. And when Puma came on board in the last 10 years or so, they've continued under the agreement that ran from 1999. That agreement will lapse somewhere in 2027. But at this point in time, when we are under the stress in respect to reliable, constant, and consistent supply of fuel, Cabinet has met yesterday based on our officials who looked through the provisions of law that would enable us to make this decision. The National Security Advisory Council met and they've offered their recommendations to Cabinet, and Cabinet passed certain decisions yesterday, of which I'm announcing to our country. Essentially, using the provisions of Section 3 and Section 2 of the Essential Services Act, that should mean that essential services defined as electricity, water, sewage, postal services, civil aviation services, radio, television services, health services, transport services, telecommunication, and access to ports and harbors, as well as other essential service remains uninterrupted, or dislocated, or the supply or the service is not diminished. Those are provisions of Section 2 of the Essential Services Act, and under Section 3, the Cabinet recommended to our head of state to make emergency declarations, and the emergency declarations were made, and that declarations includes the head of state authorizes the requisition and use of Napa refinery and related infrastructure belonging to Puma companies for and in connection with fuel storage and fuel supply, so that petroleum products continuously brought into this facility for redistribution into the transport sector in our country, so that the services are not sabotaged and are stopped. We also appointed Deputy Prime Minister to be the lead minister to administer the effective implementation of our Cabinet decisions, to be assisted by Minister for Petroleum and Energy, and has Minister for Transport, Minister for State and Enterprises, Minister for Foreign Affairs, and Minister for Justice, who are part of this ministerial committee that will oversight these emergency declarations to ensure it is fully implemented. We've also tasked all necessary agencies of state, the National Energy Authority, the Office of State Solicitor, Department of Petroleum, Department of Treasury, Department of Lands and Fiscal Planning, Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited, Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited, and other relevant agencies to work together to ensure that fuel, the immediate needs of fuel, is maintained in this instance. Liaison with Puma as the fuel supplier, and our liaison with other fuel suppliers, ExxonMobil and Total, is maintained, so that we don't compromise fuel supply in our country. These state agencies are mobilized to pull together. I just want to include at this juncture of my press that over 9 months ago, Cabinet decided earlier committee to work in this matter. The earlier committee was presided over by the recent past Petroleum and Energy Minister. Unfortunately, substantial progress was never made in this sort of front, but it is not late. I want to appreciate Puma. I want to appreciate Bank of PNG. I want to appreciate BSP and Kina Bank. These four major businesses in our country for understanding that energy must be supplied in our country. Petroleum products must continue to be supplied. So despite some procedural and requirement loggerheads with the central bank and the commercial banks, I think in the national interest they were able to find meeting points in which we continue to work up till today. And so for short-term measures, the head of state has issued emergency declaration and an appropriate minister. And in this instance, Minister for Petroleum and Energy to issue requisition and direct Puma to continue on the fuel supply in all areas of fuel needs, especially in the space of the air transportations. Air transportations, we had subsidiary arrangements where Puma and subsidiary company are the only two ones with the capacity to deliver to our airlines right now in terms of the aviation fuels. And so this instructions covers them, that Puma and PIL and every other who work in the airline space are directed to continue on taking in fuel and to supply fuel to our airline industry, and they're not affected. The minister administrating this one, Minister for Petroleum and Energy, will have oversight in this one. This includes that continuous supply. We also, Cabinet has already decided that under emergency order that BSP would continue to hold Puma's account for 1 year. BSP will continue to hold Puma's account for 1 year, and we work through the issues they might have. Under this Cabinet instructions also ask Central Bank to furnish to national government what is the issues they have with Puma. They've given a month to furnish to the government the issues they may have had with Puma that has caused stress for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so Central Bank has now been compelled to furnish the report within a month. And Puma, as a business in our country, has every right to ask what is the black spot, what is the black label that makes Central Bank have an issue with us, notwithstanding the fact that commercial banks also have their own right to hold accounts with the client, and that is another matter. So with respect to individual commercial banks having a right to hold accounts, we've asked BSP to maintain Puma's account for 1 more year, and for us to work through what needs to be worked in, especially getting a report from Central Bank, and for us as a country looking at alternate solutions. I want to also indicate that in the medium term, through this, we will enact laws. When we come back to Parliament in May, we'll pass certain laws that will reduce the monopoly of fuel supply and will open up the market. And this Cabinet also has allowed for Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited to be our national energy company that will work with subsidiaries in our country for the importation of fuel and for redistribution of fuel in our country. That 1999's monopoly agreement has really changed us into the situation we are in today, and Cabinet has taken a decision. In the decision also, we're asking our State Solicitor and the team to review the 1999 agreement with Puma to see whether compliance on the part of Puma or compliance on the part of us as a country has been met, and we'll see. We will also be looking to this space so that in the midterm we find an alternate legal pathway to ensure we're not restricted to only one supplier, but we have ability to also import fuel elsewhere. And working with Kumul Petroleum as the nation's energy company, we're looking to also diversify and import fuels elsewhere, especially in the aviation fuel sector. In the long term, we're also looking at possibility of setting up with Kumul and subsidiaries, additional infrastructure for fuel storage. We're looking at working with U.S. under the Defense Cooperation Agreement for possibility of fuel bunkering in Lae and Port Moresby and possibly Manus for long-term fuel security. This is something we're working on in our national interest, to have fuel storage that is not dependent on companies and selling fuel to us, but as a nation securing our energy security in the fuel bunkering and fuel storage that Kumul Petroleum Holdings is tasked to get out there and have a look into. I did also made mention earlier, we will also be looking at possibility of at fair market value. Puma is found to be not good to work in the economy, then at fair market value, we're looking to work at picking up the infrastructure they have in Napa Napa. Those have been decided upon, and part of the review will take place in the 1999 agreement in as far as with the Napa Napa project agreement is concerned. We'll look through all of this and have a holistic approach for long-term fuel security of our country. I thought I'd bring this announcement to our country. I want to apologize if the nation has been under stress in respect to fuel. This is what it is. We have these monopolistic arrangements in as far as Puma supply. Puma currently occupies quite a substantial part of our market, but we're working at working through legal means to unbundle the monopoly. We're also looking at ensuring that Kumul is prepared to bring in additional gas. I want to thank at this point in time ExxonMobil for bringing an additional cargo of jet fuel as well as fuel to fill in the gap. In any case, Puma completely decides to shut down on us. But with these decisions that we've taken, it's a decision to compel. Penalties are attached with it if those who we pass directions to do not comply. Under the Essential Services Act, there are penalties for those who fail to comply, and we're willing to deploy every legal means possible to ensure that our country's fuel is not sabotaged. Our planes keep flying, our cars keep moving on. And I want to indicate that later this week, Deputy Prime Minister will head a body of ministers. They'll be relaying this to Puma, they'll be relaying this to BSP, they'll be relaying this to Central Bank to ensure that we all work in tandem and we will work together to find midterm, our short-term, midterm, and of course our long-term solution for energy security. Cabinet has also directed that the bank, the commercial bank that facilitates and support Puma in this instance, as well as other importers of fuel, ExxonMobil, Total, and other individual importers of fuel. Cabinet has made a direction that Central Bank, as well as will ensure enough supply of forex goes to that commercial bank. We also have directed all our state-owned enterprises to relocate the US dollar holding accounts into those commercial banks, so we have a regular supply of forex for fuel importations into our country. So those were decisions we took yesterday to ensure that we don't compromise our fuel support. I want to indicate that Australia government has always been on standby. They've indicated that they are on standby to assist wherever possible in as far as our fuel security is concerned. Whilst we were faced with the imminent danger of complete fuel shutdown, but we had facilities at every stage opened, including bilateral facilities, as well as other suppliers like Exxon. Exxon rerouted at short notice a ship that was going to Pacific, that was rerouted to be on standby in the event that we hit rock bottom at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. So I want to indicate to our country, Cabinet has been working. This is a serious matter. We have contractual obligation to Puma's monopoly in our country. We need to give respect to agreements they've had. We treat this diligently without sending a negative signal that Essential Services Act could be deployed at any one time. But we've reached a stage where we felt that the Essential Services Act provisions can be deployed and was deployed yesterday. Head of State has declared fuel emergency. There's a Minister Administrator appointed already in Minister Maladina to ensure that implementations are rolled out. There's a higher committee of ministers under Deputy Prime Minister is assembled to negotiate with Puma, negotiate with negotiate with the banks and central bank to ensure all of us work together without compromising our nation's security needs in as far as fuel is concerned. Any question from anyone?
What are the possible penalties if it reaches the emergency?
It's in hundreds and millions of, not kina, but hundreds and millions of thousands of kina. So penalty and imprisonment. The essential services order and directions are given, and lack of compliance, then the law provides for penalty also, and penalty is sufficiently covered in that. I don't think they will breach it. For Puma, I don't advocate for them, but I'd like to believe that they've been operating faithfully in our country also. They import fuel out of Singapore. Singapore, in as far as I know, have no issues with them. That is why we're asking the central bank, tell us what is the issue with Puma. And so when we talk to them, common sense will prevail. I don't think that part of need to invoke provisions of penalty will be utilized. Our committee of ministers will talk to them to ensure that there is no major impediment, there is no major hassle, there is no major protest, there is no major, what is the word beyond protest? Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Prime Minister, across the supplies that we do have, of course, now you're doing the requisition of the assets, are you expecting adequate supply to be delivered to the country in a month or so?
That's the intention. We want the supplies. We've got ships coming in, the supplies, and Puma Assets is the only one that has a storage facility. And so under the Minister Administrator, we will talk to Puma and ask them that, you take them in, you buy them, you keep them there, we lease your property. At fair market, commercial arrangements, those discussions will be made with Puma.
Mr. Will the price be affected in any way with the new rerouted fuel supply coming in?
We don't intend to affect the price. People have the economy carries high price of fuel anyway. We, as a government, we're looking at ways to ensure that we buffer. There's an additional cost involved. Government looks forward to standing to buffer the additional price so that the current charge to the market remains at the present level.
Prime Minister, also in regards to BSP itself, BSP, the only one that was providing the foreign exchange service, obviously was making a bit of point from that. For them to actually come to the conclusion to remove the Puma Energy accounts must have been a big decision that wasn't taken lightly. Now, the message from your government is that you will be telling BSP to continue with the operations. How does that impact BSP's stock portfolio? And at the same time, if it means that they might be adhering to certain international banking guidelines, how does that affect them when they're forced to reinstate the Puma account?
I think BSP at the moment, the 12-month extension we're looking at covers they've already given extension to June anyway. And so BSP has been very kind, as you all possibly know. Even central bank can't force a commercial bank to hold a client's account. That is within their rights. They have every right to refuse an account or hold an account. They've made their call. They have corresponding bank requirements as well as their own bank requirements, so as a commercial bank. But in their national interest, in the face of this potential energy crisis, using the Essential Services Act, we're asking them to extend by 12 months until we work our midterm as well as long-term solutions through. And that midterm, long-term solutions also will involve establishing Puma has an interest to remain with us. At the moment, they've been giving us mixed signals, so it is in our interest also to ensure that we secure our country's energy. And that is why it may seem hard, but we've made this essential call for our country.
Prime Minister, is your government concerned about the fact that Puma's parent company, Trafigura, has been embroiled in international scandals regarding involvement in bribery as well as other types of corruption?
At this stage, for me, it's hearsay. I have no concrete evidence before me in this matter in terms of allegations of Puma or Trafigura. They've been, as I said, a reference point for me. They operate in and out of Singapore up till today. Singapore central bank equivalent or commercial banks equivalents have allowed them to operate there. So for us as a country, immediate need for me is energy security. Mid-term, long-term, I indicated earlier, we want to diversify instead of just relying on one commercial supplier. We've now asked our national energy company, Kumul Petroleum Company, to also go in at a subsidy level, importing of fuel, storaging of fuel, or utilizing our domestic market gas obligations. Earlier this morning, I had a presentation by a company on possibly utilizing our DMO gas for other aspects of gas opportunity. We work with MRDC, Kumut Petroleum, ExxonMobil to how to utilize that, and that's mid-term, long-term. Right now, for me, keep the tanks with fuel and allow the fuel to be supplying our vehicles and our planes.
Prime Minister, you of course mentioned that you said that the work of the previous minister didn't go far enough. That being said, though, this issue was very obvious for months out that we were going to end up likely in this position. Any passing observer would have said this. Is it just acceptable enough to say that the last minister didn't do enough work, or does this really reflect on the fact that the government didn't do enough on this for months ahead of this issue now?
Yeah, good question. I take full responsibility. I take full responsibility as the Prime Minister oversighting the minister. I think an element of trust on ministers to do their job was there, and ministers were not progressing what they're supposed to do. That's why we have a whole of cabinet approach. We sort of coming down in a hard way, utilizing our law that is in the custody of Minister Duma, and so he brought the submission into cabinet, and we're working as a team now to ensure we don't face the red light. So. Having said, what has happened in the past has happened. We're making those corrective measures. And in the past, we have not also been doing nothing. Conversations has been running with Puma, with Central Bank. Remember, Central Bank has worked with even the commercial banks. BSP has extended time out for Puma to continue maintaining the account in Puma. So it's not as if we have not really worked in this space. Work has been running, but the lead minister didn't bring to us the fullest direction as to where to go. This could have taken place 3 months, 6 months ago. It has taken place just yesterday in working this provision, especially at the backdrop where Puma sort of has withdrawn most of its support staff out of Port Moresby already. We just felt that we need to step in this time around.
Are you concerned about the economic impact that this has had? Many business leaders were concerned about the operations of their business. I imagine that has had an impact on investor confidence. Are you concerned about those economic ramifications?
Sure. Absolutely concerned.
Prime Minister, outside of our Puma issue, while we talk about the business, the relief package for the businesses affected on January 10, are you able to update us on that?
Sorry?
Yeah, the relief package for the...
Oh, relief package. The relief package has been approved already. There's the systems in identifying who are the genuine ones to receive and those who are not so genuine ones. In the course of collecting the loss of businesses, there's some have gone up to the billions, indicating that they've lost in the billions. And so we need to make a fair assessment. But the big employers, and we've categorized them into those who pay tax and those who are actually employing people and the super fund contributions. 10% of what has been approved, the 270 million kina, 10% we're looking at to funnel to maintaining the staff who have lost employment as a result of the loss of businesses and the workplace, and the balance would go to assist the business to be up and running again. But we're trying to find a landing pad in whether it's just instead of giving it free, there must be some level of accountability in the giving. It's public money. We don't want to set precedents where any time into the future a ban take place and everyone runs to government again. So we're finding the right policy where we could land on. So in the assistance, it's going to genuine businesses to help them up and running instead of creating precedences where anyone could come and run to the state when there's a banning and looting that takes place.
Prime Minister, last one from me. I've got two questions. Firstly,
How come she's saying last one when others will the weddings?
sorry.
Anyway, happy that you're controlling my media time.
Well, first question is, the former minister, is proposing a complete sale of Puma Energy. What's your position on this? Firstly, second one is that most of these companies have been affected during the 10th January crisis. Most of their values of property lost. Most of these critics are saying that
those are even quite fraudulent. They're trying to defraud the state with their exorbitant values that were put through the government. So, does your government have any independent investigators who are verifying the values of the properties lost? Thank you.
Yeah, these are part of the reasons why we have a little bit of delay. As I said earlier, we don't want to create precedents where anyone can come in and claim from government. That claim must come through a pathway. It's a correct amount being claimed, and we can't take it away from them that the business were affected. We want to give them assistance, but it must lend. The assistance must go in a policy bridge that is sustained, and for a long time, it is workable for them and for us as a government. So, the accountability aspect is the one that is holding us back. Within this week, our state team will finalize this one, and sometimes next week, especially in the first instance, maintenance of Papua New Guineans who lost job, and also ensuring that these businesses are able to order again and start up the reconstruct. Those aspects are being looked upon. So I thank their patience, but within the next week or so, our state officials will get back to them. The major reason why it's slowed is the issue that you raised. Some have claimed over and above. We just want to do it correctly so that we are assessing genuinely the impact of the loss in a fair manner, get them up and get them going again, considering the employments that have been lost also in the process.
You have given rapid answer my second question. Sorry, the first one.
The former minister's view, that the entire review done, DPM and the Minister Administrator will look into this matter. We don't want to be harsh on Puma itself. Puma is a company like every other foreign companies who operate here. Every company that operates in a country has a right to operate, so long as they follow all laws of our country. And so the entire review team will look into how they've been operating, what they've been doing, and we will deal with them like we deal with any other foreign business. All of you have seen how I deal with Barrick, how we deal with any other foreign investors. There's a strong national interest in those conversations. Puma also has said, we've understood there's a stress. How do we find local partners? Those things has been running on the side, but in this cabinet decision that we took, we're not just heavy-handed on Puma. We're finding a solution, mid-term solution for them as well as our country. And in the course of the conversation, if they feel that they need to be phased out, at fair market value, they'll be phased out. If they feel they want to remain here, well, at fair market value and good business arrangements, that is better than the 1999 arrangement, we will arrive at a transaction that is good for the country, that doesn't hold the country to ransom. And so an outright purchase may not be on the table for us right now. I'm not privy to that information. I'll get the Committee of Ministers and the technical team to work through with this one. That is not something we're proposing right away. That is not something that we must be seen as our drive towards. We're not in the business of fuel business. Private sector must be in that business. But for the national interest of energy security, we're having this conversation.